All right, just doing some little maintenance stuff as people kind of join the stream. I think I had a video set to publish today. I'm gonna go ahead and defer that till tomorrow, maybe. What's up, y'all? Good job, Tina, for getting first. I'm so proud of you. Yeah. So if y'all have any questions, just feel free to ask me questions, or you can work on some stuff. I was just gonna, in the meantime, just start like overviewing, not overviewing, but just like trying to see if I can add on any more features to this application that a subscriber was kind of working on for me. He did a really good job at this project, in my opinion. But I just wanted to check it out again and make sure that I can try to get this actually like on production at some point. Maybe we'll look at how to deploy this with Next and Planet Scale. I have to figure that out. I don't think I've done that in a while. Getting a lot of server errors though. Please make sure your database is running at localhost 3306. So I have so many different like projects. I don't remember which ones actually use SQLite and which ones use a real database. This one looks like it uses a real database. I think there's like a start DB. This one's using MySQL. Okay. So, yeah, if you guys haven't used Docker before, it's really, really convenient. If you need to like have databases running locally or some type of like third-party service, because you can like write a simple Docker command to just spin up whatever service you want. So in our case, I already have one that is running. Actually, I guess I already have one created. So let's just go ahead and Docker run that. If I even remember how to. YouTube videos. So I should have a Docker container. Let me actually go to Docker desktop because I've become rusty on my Docker commands. But there should be a way to like list all the containers. I could just go ahead and play one of the containers. Which one is it called? Load an image? No. Pause. There's run. There's start. It's one of these. So Docker run YouTube videos. Can't find it. Docker start YouTube videos. I think that's how you do it. If you're not really good at the command line, you could use Docker desktop like I mentioned, which I'm not sure why it's not loading up. Anyway. So yeah, let's check this out real quick and let's see if we can get this thing just kind of deployed out to Vercel maybe with like a real database. And just kind of fix up anything that we see with this. Because I think it's like almost there. What's up, iPunch? Welcome to the stream. Someone says kindly upload basics of React video. Yeah, I could probably try to work on some like overview of React video. The thing is, when I work on like these larger videos that kind of cover all the stuff, no one really watches them. So it's like I don't want to waste time. I'd rather just build something and people can watch if they want to. What's up, Alexander? I'll try to release your video. Wait, did I release your video? I don't think I did. I'll try to publish your video today, maybe like afternoon or something. Yeah, Voidus says he rather use Docker Compose. I think definitely when you need like more than one service. I think in this example I just have a single database. So that's why I went for like just a single command. But it is easier to like have a YAML file that I don't have to have all this on one line. Yeah, so maybe we can like look into refactoring to use Docker Compose or something, but let us look at this. So I see on his little on the cards here, there's like a 0. I'm not sure why there's a 0 here. I think that's like if you liked it or not. Seeing a lot of errors. I think this is like a content policy error or something. Trying to load an image from Google and it's not loading sometimes, like these two. But they might not even exist. Yeah, so let's just go ahead and see, like, I think I have it hard coded. So if you're logged in as me, like my email, I get an add link button. And I would like to like have all the ones that are completed be moved over. So let's just go ahead and like do that really quick. All right, that doesn't work. All right, so add a YouTube link. It's a modal that when you do something with it, it's supposed to do something, but it's not doing anything. So let's kind of look through here and let's check handle add link. When you click it, add a link to idea, which, why is this not copying? I'm gonna rename this to like lowercase add link to idea. I don't make my functions with capital letters in front, so go ahead and go back and make sure that got refactored properly. But anyway, let's just go ahead and put like a debugger here and verify that I got here. You can do a debugger or you can do like a console log. But when you click it, it doesn't seem like it's doing anything. The close works, but the submit doesn't. Let's go back to handle add link. Again, let's just go ahead and put a debugger here. Click on submit. Still doesn't work. So let's go back to the modal. It calls an on OK. Supposed to call handle add link. Open add loading. Let's see. So Elon Musk says how using get server-side props using TRPC. I found it difficult to do. I haven't tried it yet. I know you have to go into the configuration. You have to like turn SSR on, and then you have to like follow their docs, and they explain how to do it. I just haven't gotten around to trying. I've just been doing a lot of client-side rendering, which probably isn't the best, but again, these are just side projects. They're nothing serious. Felix says, hi, what are your favorite resources to learn about structuring code in projects? I don't think I have any, to be honest. I mean, maybe I'll watch like once in a while a YouTube video just to see how other people might be doing it or read like a random blog post. But I think for the most part, just let your code kind of evolve and put things logically where you think they would need to be. Like some people use like a features approach. Some people use components. I kind of like having all of my, like if you have a page, have all of those things that are related to that page inside of a folder called like homepage or something. Let's see. Kleiser says, what are you working on? I'm just kind of like messing around with a little side project, answering questions. Nothing too serious on the stream. I'm getting a Docker virtualization error. Do I need to configure settings from BIOS or is there any other solution? Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe you have to restart your computer and go to your BIOS and turn that on. I think it's like a lower level motherboard setting, like a CPU setting. Yeah, someone says you need to enable Hyper-V, I believe. What is your take on T3? I mean, I've been using that for all my side projects. I think it's pretty good. The only thing that's kind of questionable is the TRPC because it's kind of, it goes against the standard of like how you make APIs and stuff. But for the most part, for side projects, I'm finding myself really productive using the T3 stack. Tailwind is kind of hit or miss because unless you go and you have to build all these components yourself, which isn't the most efficient, especially if you're not good at design, like using something like Material UI or what's the other one called? Chakra UI. Like they have a bunch of things that are already built out of the box. So as a beginner who's not good at making components and not good at designing, it might actually make more sense to use one of those libraries. I mean, there's like headless UI for Tailwind, and there's a bunch of like free Tailwind components out there, but it just seems really do it yourself when you do it that approach. Like you have to copy their code, paste it into your project. Most of the code examples are not in React, so like you have to go and fix the code. But yeah, I really feel like using Tailwind makes you productive. Yeah, I mean, Donnie, there's like only like 7 components in headless UI. So like I know people talk about this all the time, but like there's literally only 10 components. And the thing is like these components, you have to go and like scroll through the code examples and copy and paste what you want, which I don't know. It's not as user friendly as something like Chakra UI, where you literally just bring in the component, pass it some props, and you're good to go. Like it's a lot of do it yourself, roll your own. And I understand like their intent is so you can easily customize whatever you want, but there's trade-offs in my opinion. Can I debug in VS Code for my front end project? I think you can. Honestly, I don't really do it that often. I think what you do is like you'd run your application. Let's see if we can just do that real quick. So in VS Code, there's this cool thing that I don't know if you've seen. You click on the run and debug and click on JavaScript debug terminal. And when you're in this terminal here, you'll see that it like has a different name. Just do like an npm run dev, and that's gonna run whatever you run with the debugger. Okay, so like if I wanted to debug this front end application using the VS Code debugger, I believe it'll pause when I put breakpoints, which these aren't showing up for me, so I'm not sure like what we should put a breakpoint on. Maybe I'll just put a breakpoint here. Okay, I guess you can't put it there for some reason. Yeah, I didn't say it's a good way to do it because for some reason I'm putting breakpoints and it's just not putting them down, so that's kind of crappy. But it should, I mean, like, in theory, I thought it would stop and go to the debugger here, but I could be completely wrong. Media card. Yeah, I don't know, maybe I'll, oh, there we go. Yeah, I don't know. I never done it for the front end before. Someone in the chat could probably answer that question much better than me, but I would probably just debug directly in your Chrome browser because there's going to be so much extra stuff that you have to deal with in VS Code. Dog says, what is a T3 stack? It's just Tailwind CSS, Next.js, TRPC, Prisma for like the ORM/database connection. And am I missing anything else? I'm sure I am. I don't know if you've seen Theo. He's another YouTuber/Twitch streamer. He kind of coined this term, but I think his community is the one working on this project. Yeah, TypeScript and next auth. So it's like it sounds like a really interesting new thing, but really it's just a bunch of an opinionated way to build an application. Like everyone that I know, a lot of people use Tailwind already, so this isn't new. A lot of people use TypeScript already, so this isn't really new. Tons of people use Prisma, tons of people use Next. The only thing that's a little bit different is the TRPC part of it, which, yeah. I need to remove the debugger. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I might go back and try that again, but again, like, I'm not gonna, my workflow is like, if I need to debug, I just debug in the UI. Gojo says, I don't know English well and I haven't studied yet. Can I become good programmer in the future? Yeah, I think so. I mean, anyone can be good at programming if you just put time into it and learn. Yeah, dog, I have a couple of videos. I mean, they're not like super planned out, but I have a couple of T3 stack videos if you want to watch one of those to maybe get an overview. But yeah, Incognito says, hey man, love the content, keep it up. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching. I'm glad you guys enjoy my content. Yeah, so let's go back to this. I don't know how much progress I'll make on this, but go ahead and sign in. All right, so what we're trying to do is like this modal pops up. I believe he's using ant D in this project. Okay, sure, now the debugger works. Add link to idea. So it's getting all the way here, and then it should be calling, kind of hard to like, let me see if I can just put this at the bottom. Here. So if I run this, is it adding the link? I don't know. But the first thing, let's just focus on, I know I haven't built anything at all. I just keep on saying I'm gonna build something, but let's just make this thing disappear when you click submit. So let's go to add link to idea and kind of work our way back. So this one, get rid of the debugger here. That should be doing a post request to the API. And this project actually isn't in the T3 stack. I believe it's in a completely different stack, which is fine. What endpoint is this hitting? Hitting an add link. idea ID and video link. All right, so going back here, when you add the link, if everything worked fine, like we should probably close the modal. Set open upload link modal. I'll just go ahead and set that to false. Is this not refreshing? Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Let me just do a hard refresh. Maybe there's something that's stuck here. Am I crazy? Okay, there should only be one modal here, which is this one. Is modal my component or their component? No, this is an ant D component. Takes in an on OK, which calls handle add link, which calls this, and then it should close this modal. When you click add link, it opens the modal. Visible on uploaded modal. Maybe this is throwing some type of exception and it's just not getting displayed or caught. Kind of confused right now. All right, so what I'm trying to do right now is there's a add link button. You click it, it loads this modal. Type in some text, you click submit. It saves the link to the backend and overwrites this link, but then it's supposed to close the modal. But if you look here, we're only getting to this. We're not getting to this. I mean, maybe it's because we're not returning. I don't think that'll make a difference though. Sometimes in programming, like, you just get stuck on the dumbest things. Like, I know this is going to be a dumb issue, but let me go to chat. Someone else smarter than me knows. It's too early here to be coding. Felix says, what's my opinion on Laravel? I haven't used it before, but it seems like it's a pretty solid, like, server-side rendering stack. I know, like, they use Vue for the front end too, which I like Vue. Vue's pretty cool. But I haven't used it, and I haven't used PHP in so long that I don't really have a too strong of an opinion, or can't really say much about it, but seems good. I used something for Node called Adonis.js before, which I don't know if this is even managed, but I think this was based on Laravel, and when I was playing around with this was actually pretty fun to use. Like, the ORM was pretty cool, like the way they structured all their controllers and routes, and they did like a Inversion of control container approach. So I don't know if Laravel does that, but you know, this is pretty interesting. The only thing I didn't like about it is that it uses like some weird custom templating, in which in this day and age, like I don't see any benefit to using any type of templating language. Like you're going to end up needing some dynamic content. You're going to end up needing some type of like React or Vue or Svelte so that users can dynamically interact. Unless you're just making a static site like these docs or a static blog, most applications, and from what I've seen, need rich dynamic content. So I just don't see any benefit to like not being able to use Vue or Next, or sorry, Vue or React or some type of powerful component library. But yeah, I mean, if Adonis is anywhere close to Laravel, then yeah, it's probably pretty cool. Custy says, is okay being called properly inside Modal? Yeah, so I don't own Modal. Modal is a third-party component, which, I mean, I could put a thing here, but we know this function is getting called. That's the weird thing. I put a console log here, it prints out A, and then it runs this method, and then it just gets stuck. It like doesn't go past here. So I mean, we could put a try catch. Maybe Next is like consuming the error, which would kind of suck. And probably in the console below, it's telling me exactly my error. I just haven't read it. API resolved without sending a response for API idea add link. This may result in stalled requests. Not sure what that means. Well, if you actually read the the error, it said this might result in stall requests, and that's what we're getting. If you look down here, I can't show you because the bottom of my screen is chopped off, but maybe I'm gonna go over here. So if I look at the add link, I'm still waking up, but it's pending. It's never resolving. It's never finishing. And if I actually read the error, in which people in chat probably told me to read, I didn't even read the chat yet. It says API resolved without sending a response. So we need to go to the API and figure out why it's not sending back a response. So let's go to this API called add link and kind of read through this code and understand what's going on. So it's probably because there's just a console log here and there's not a response, which I think we could just do this. There we go. In terms of accessibility, like I don't know why AntD doesn't have the borders. Like if you use tab, you can't really tell like which one's clicked. That sucks. But yeah, let's go ahead and we fixed that little bug that took forever. But hopefully you guys learned how to kind of make sure you always like double check everything. Like you see this doesn't have a status code. That was a red flag. You see in the console, there was white text. I don't know why Next decided to use white text for something that's kind of like more of an error. But you know, when you see white text, you kind of just don't care about it because it's just noise. But this is an actual like, yo, your API is not responding. Like this is an issue. I don't know why this is white, but I'm just complaining about Next at this point. Yeah, let's go back to chat real quick. Paul says, hi, when making, oh shoot. When making a project, do you recommend to do mobile first, then work your way out to a larger screen? I think it depends on your use case. If you can like, I keep looking at my camera thinking it's my laptop, but the camera's up here. If you can figure out what percentage of your users are going to be using mobile versus your desktop, then that's when you want to focus on. Like if 80% of your people need to hit your site on their phone, then you should be doing mobile first. If only 5% are hitting your site on mobile, then I wouldn't invest that much time in mobile because obviously it's not important. Like if you're building like a desktop app like Trello, like how many people actually hit Trello on a phone? Probably not that many. So that's my answer to that. T97, for a better experience, you can use MS Edge DevTools. I don't know. I haven't used MS Edge really. I use it. We have to use it for work to verify our application loads, but that's about it. I rather just use Chrome because that's what I'm used to. Doesn't MS Edge use Chromium? Maybe it doesn't. Does MS Edge use Chromium? It's based on Chromium, so I'm not sure why the developer experience would be any different from Chrome, but what do I know? Thank you. I love you, but do you think I will have problems in the future because of English? I don't know really well. I mean, you're typing sentences pretty well unless you're using a translator, so I don't know if you have issues. Maybe you'll have issues if you're trying to get a job at like a company that's primarily English, because there might be some type of language barrier, and it's very hard to communicate ideas, especially programming ideas that are abstract and confusing to people who can't fluently speak English, I guess. But I haven't worked with someone who doesn't actually speak the same language I'm speaking, so I don't know how to answer this. I'm hoping you don't have problems, but there's always communication barriers are always potential for problems. Let's see. Adam says, how would you resolve that problem when you download a great chunk of data with Git server-side props? I mean, some CMS stuff for every section, some database reads. It take a lot of time to load. I guess I'm wondering why would you download so much stuff? Like, just download the bare minimum you need to get the page to load fast with some content. I'm sure there's some pages that there's content that's not really important. Like if you're doing server-side props, typically you want to do this because like you want search engine optimization, right? Because there's a trade-off between server-side props because your page is just going to sit there loading, right? Nothing will show on your page while the server-side props is fetching all the data. And the trade-off is either that, or you can have your user actually start seeing components pop up using client-side rendering and then fetch that data dynamically as you need it. So I guess my recommendation would be try to only grab what you need in server-side props. Maybe you can do like a database limit. So limit how many things come back. So in this case, I could limit up to 8 because like when the page loads, you can only see 8. But if you had like 1,000 ideas, you don't want to fetch all 1,000 of them in props. Just fetch 8. Then when the UI loads, you can go back and fetch all the rest if you want to, or add pagination or something. Or lazy low content, I don't know. While looking at you coding, I feel it is so relatable as I do the same way all the time. Our coding styles really match. Yeah, I don't even know what my coding style is. I like to just experiment and play around with code and get lost. I don't like to sit there and think about what I'm going to do. I just start doing stuff and then I waste 20 minutes and then I go back and start thinking. Someone says, I love the JavaScript tips shorts. Is there a written version of this type of content? No, I don't really have time to keep a blog or write anything. So the shorts is the most I'm going to do. And even those, like, I need to make some more because I'm running out. Avoided name won't make a difference. Well, unless you want to consume the result, but resolution order is the same. I'm not sure what that was in content or what context that was related to. I've already forgotten what I've talked about, so I apologize for that. What are we building? I'm just kind of working on a side project that a subscriber was working on that I was kind of paying him to work on. I wanted to see if I can get this deployed out. But honestly, this probably turned more to like answering questions because I can never get through these questions fast enough. Let's see. If the backend has an error and isn't returning a response, the await will just keep waiting and not close the modal. Yeah, that's definitely exactly what we ran into. And I wish I actually read the white error text that was in my console. Try debugging on the back end. What do you think about Golang? I never used Golang before, but it seems like it's pretty good. People speak highly of it, and I like how you can compile down to a single binary for like whatever OS that you want and like just run it. We use Node.js at work, and it's kind of a pain to like get it deployed because you have to bring in your code and then your Node modules and all your dependencies. So we end up having to use like Webpack to bundle our entire backend Node server code into a single executable, or not even executable, a single JavaScript file. We deploy that to Lambda, and the Lambda just runs that single file. And then you're into issues where sometimes your node code needs to hook into lower level binaries, and you have to have like all of those bin files kind of set up on the Docker container or your like DLLs or whatever. But yeah, I mean, Golang seems like it'd be pretty cool. I just don't know. I haven't really used it. I like to go look at it and kind of learn it because it seems like it might be pretty cool to use. Someone says, can you try to close it without API call? Check, does it work? Yeah, just fix this issue. That was a good suggestion. I wish these things had timestamps on them. Like, I don't know how long ago these messages were, but like, I'm not sure why there's no timestamps on any of these. It'd be really useful. All right, Dag says, how long have you been in the field? I've been working professionally since 2013. But then I went to school for software engineering before that. So 2009 to 2013, I was in school for software engineering. But yeah, 2013. So that's like what? That's like 9 years, almost 10 years doing coding. And there's still so much I'm trying to learn every day. It's crazy. Like this feels insane. Do you use SQL? On my work project, I use DynamoDB, which is like a key value store that Amazon provides you. It can like scale up really big. You can have like a lot of data in it, but I don't want to talk too much about Dynamo. It's kind of hard to use on a real project. But I use SQL for my side projects now, and I used to use SQL a long time ago when at my first job I joined. So I definitely like SQL. Let's see. Yep, backend just needs to send it back. Could be cores. No, let's see. I don't think so. Cores will throw an error. What time is it over here? It's like 8 o'clock, I believe. 8 o'clock a.m. I do for my groceries. Don't know what that was in relation to. Jayton Patel says, hey brother, make one short React course video. Yeah, I could try to do that one day. My plan is if I get like enough subscribers, I will make an actual like course and see how it does. But for the most part, what I've seen is putting a lot of effort into a course does not help pay any bills, right? Like unless you have your own audience that you can sell a course to or like market a course, there's no point to using anything like Udemy because they take like half of your profits. But yeah, I guess my channel is not even to make paid courses, so I could make like a small little React intro. I guess like a crash course if y'all wanted, but I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of making tutorial videos anymore. Like I like just coding and showing you me coding because I think that's one of the best ways to learn is to watch someone else code. And if you can get into a Zoom with someone, get into like a pair programming situation where you and this other person take turns every 10 minutes swapping between like who's coding, who's driving, work through problems together. I think that's one of the best ways you can kind of learn how to code is to collab with someone who's either more experienced with you and is willing to take the time to explain stuff, or someone who's at the same level and you guys can bounce ideas off each other and learn from each other. I've never used Astro before, so I don't know. Honestly, if you're using Next, like I don't feel like there's a reason to switch to Astro. Maybe there is. I don't really care about staying up with new frameworks and libraries. I'll transition when I think they're useful, but maybe someone else can tell me if Astro is worth learning. All right, give me a second. I need to drink some coffee. There's a lot of questions. What are you developing? This is like an application where people can go and upload YouTube ideas. Because right now my Discord, like you can upload ideas here, but I can't go back and like mark off the ones. Like maybe I should be deleting comments here and that would keep it easier for me. But it's very hard to manage like all these ideas that come in and which one I've actually published. And when I publish them, there's no way to know like what is the link. So like if I made a short on the spread operator, which I probably did, or maybe I didn't, how do you know I made that short, right? Well, you have to go to YouTube and like search through my stuff, and no one ever short searches through people's channels. Like, let's be honest. So I think having like a centralized place where I can have all these ideas, and when I finish those ideas, you can actually view which things I've made a video about. So that if you ever come into the future and like ask like, hey, can you make a video on Storybook? Well, you'd go here and check if Storybook exists first and then upload it if it doesn't. Don't know if it's a good idea. Again, it's just side project, the video content. Where's my chat? Satyam Sharma says, I am a React.js developer, but I want to learn TypeScript. How do I jump into TypeScript? Can you recommend some channels? I don't watch other channels. Tom Does Tech does some TypeScript stuff. There's Donnie Roofs. I believe he has a YouTube channel as well. I don't know if he's publishing videos as much, but he does some TypeScript stuff. But I don't know. I don't really like watching YouTube videos to learn stuff. Like I might do it for a quick overview, but in terms of TypeScript, like I would just go to create React app or Vite or Next and create a new project and tell it to create a TypeScript mode, right? So typically most of these things like Next set up with TypeScript. Most of these things have a flag you can pass like this: yarn create next app TypeScript. That'll set up a project with TypeScript, and you don't have to worry about doing all the configuration, because doing this like tsconfig thing can be a little bit overwhelming. Like I honestly need to spend time understanding what half this stuff does. I usually just use whatever's provided to me out of the box and just roll with that. But once you have it set up, like TypeScript, you can choose to add whatever you want to add in terms of types. So the main thing I should show is like if you go to this tsconfig, I believe there's a way to turn off, maybe it's strict, or maybe there's like an ini. But when you're running TypeScript, like the one thing you'll start running into when you're a beginner is, how do I share this? Let's make a function real quick. I'll say like function do stuff, and that takes in an a, and I'm going to return a plus 1, right? So TypeScript complains because it's like, hey, you're passing, like this function is declared with an a, but like you need to actually give it, or sorry, a is a type of any, but TypeScript wants you to actually type your stuff. So you can turn that off if you want in like, I think it's strict mode maybe. I don't know. Let's figure that out. TypeScript tsconfig turn off any requirement. Now, people who are like TypeScript fanatics will say like, no, you should never turn this off. But when you're a beginner and you don't know TypeScript, it's very overwhelming to have your editor like yell at you about everything. It's probably called like no implicit inis. Types tsconfig turn off no implicit inis. Is that it? Sometimes I feel like I'm so bad at finding like the stuff I need. No compiler options, no implicit any true. Is that how you do it? I'm going to turn that off. And maybe it needs to be true. And like I said, I don't know what I'm doing. So you think this would like fix the stuff. Let me reload this, restart the TypeScript server. Sometimes you have to restart it. I think that might have fixed my issue. Okay, anyway, the point I'm getting at is if you can get a TypeScript project set up with like Next or Vite, start simple, go in and turn off the no implicit any, and then start getting familiar with like, okay, when I define a function, I can actually start typing some stuff, right? So I need this to be a number, right? No one should be passing a string into this. No one should be passing an object. So you could actually start going through your code and be like, well, this would make more sense if I type it as a number, so that if someone down the road decides to say do stuff and pass in like a, it starts complaining. That's literally all TypeScript is. Like the bare minimum of TypeScript is it gives you the support to start adding types to your arguments for functions, and you can start typing like your variables. Like for example, one thing that's cool about TypeScript is that it implies types, right? So at least I thought I was supposed to. Maybe because I got rid of the no implicit any or something. But this one, I think it's when you make a hello variable and you set it to the string of hello. I thought this would have a type of hello, but I'm not seeing type of hello be printed here, which is kind of confusing. So in this example, maybe you have to give it a string explicitly. And maybe it's because I turned off that no implicit any. Let's just try that real quick. Restart my TypeScript server and go back and add that. And Okay. Yeah, I don't know. But I hope my point is made clear. Yeah, I don't know why this doesn't say string. Kind of strange. But that's my recommendation. Start small. Start with the bare minimum. Work your way up. And then you'll start getting into like generics and all this other stuff. You'll learn more about it and you won't be struggling as much. Any advice on building e-commerce site? Yeah, I don't know. I've played around with Stripe some. I've never built a e-commerce site professionally, so I don't know like the ins and outs of it. That's I don't know. Use Next, use Stripe. Those are that's my advice on that. Roman Munar says, "How does your database setup look like? Do you use Firebase or host your own Postgres?" For the most part, like whenever you're dealing with databases in this day and age, if you have the money, just use a managed service. So that could be like Planet Scale, that could be AWS RDS, that could be like AWS Aora, that could be AWS Dynamo. Because you don't want to spend a bunch of time maintaining and managing your own like SQL servers because that takes a lot of expertise in my opinion. So if you can just use a pre-existing one, I think like Heroku provides you some database stuff if you want. I know it's kind of expensive, but the reason it's expensive is because you don't want to like wake up one day and your database is crashed and no one can use your application. You want to use a service that does all that like for you behind the scenes and auto scales your database when you get too much data. So yeah, in terms of like what do I use? At work I use DynamoDB. On my side projects I've been using SQL, like MySQL, SQLite, Postgres. But no, I don't host my own stuff anymore just because I don't want to like waste time doing that. I want to build features and build applications and not like spend time configuring and updating and maintaining and fixing security issues with like a running SQL instance. Man, I wish I can get through these comments faster. How does your data... Okay, I just read that one. I'm dumb. Okay, any advice on things to avoid or follow in order to actually finish a side project instead of starting a new one over and over again? I made like a couple of videos on this, and I've kind of said I'm not the person to ask this question to because I keep jumping around from project to project. There's benefits to doing what I do, which is like you learn a little bit of this, you get bored, you can jump over to something else, you learn a little bit of that. And as you keep learning new things, like all this knowledge kind of compounds together and helps you understand like the bigger picture. But in terms of like advice to stay focused on a single project, just don't start new ones. Just pick a stack, stay with it until you see it fully finished or whatever your level of finished is. Because I don't know, jumping from language to language, tech stack to tech stack, like doesn't help you in the long run in terms of like, there's like a certain threshold where like your project has to become so big for it to be like complex, right? If you just keep jumping around from smaller project to smaller project, you never reach that complexity stages where you have to like start refactoring and really think critically about how you're doing things in your app. So that's why I think building out one large scale project kind of is good because you can show that on a resume or show that on a portfolio or whatever. And it just gives you things to talk about during an interview or whatever. Do you check out your viewers' projects? Yeah, I've been doing that. It's kind of hard because I think people want me to like refactor their code, and it's fun doing it once in a while, but it gets kind of repetitive, like taking their code and abstracting away to a custom hook and then taking their components and splitting them out into separate files. But people have seen a lot of benefit of watching those videos, so I'll continue to do them, but I'm also going to jump around and do like the content I want to do as well. Recommend any React projects? All I made so far was a to-do list app. I would say just clone an existing site. Find a site you like using, like maybe Reddit, Craigslist, whatever. Just clone it and just keep adding features until like you pretty much have a fully working application that's a low budget version of whatever you're trying to clone. Like even clone Facebook. I think one of my subscribers is trying to make his own social media site with Next.js. It doesn't have to be something new. It doesn't have to be something unique. Like your goal is to learn, and sometimes it's easier to learn if you just clone what's already there. A daily dose of chocolate. As a freelance or a remote employee, when you get stuck on a problem, do you count those hours as work hours or ignore those hours? I would count them as work hours. Um, because a majority of our day is spent trying to figure stuff out. So that's part of the job, right? Someone's going to ask you to build something you never built before. You have to figure it out, so you charge for those hours. If someone is requiring you to do something with a new tech stack or a new language, you're going to charge them for that because you have to learn that. That's just my opinion. I would just, anytime you sit down at the computer and you're touching any of the project code for your client, start a stopwatch, and that's when you start your hours. And when you get off from the computer, stop or pause your stopwatch, add up your hours for the day, and put it in a spreadsheet. You spend 8 hours and you have literally nothing to show for it because you're just reading docs all day and you're just prototyping throwaway code, charge 8 hours for that. Ramakazi, can I use Next.js only for front end? I don't have enough info about Next.js. Yeah, you can, if you want to, you can just use Next.js for client-side rendering and just use their file-based routes. You don't have to start using their API stuff at all. But the cool thing about Next is like you can do with this approach, just use the bare minimum of Next to build something. And then when you decide you want to venture off into API and like learning about how an API works, it's already there. It's set up for you. You have an API folder. You can start creating endpoints and start accepting requests and sending back responses. So it's really efficient in terms of like there's not much you have to get set up. You don't have to go and install Node and then set up Express and then start worrying about CORS issues and then start learning how to do the router. It's already there for you when you decide that you want to branch off and learn more about the API. It's a little bit, sometimes Next can be a little bit more confusing, especially when you're interacting with a database because you have to, I mean, typically they give you an example file, but when you're doing Next.js development locally, like it keeps refreshing as you save the page and it keeps connecting to your database over and over again. So like you have to add a little caching mechanism, but don't let that discourage you from doing it. Adita Kawari, actually clean code, separation of concerns, dry code, writing pure functions. That's the style I follow, and I spend a lot of time in optimization. I guess that's what you do. I guess he's just making a statement here. But yeah, it's good to take some time and just stop coding. Just literally stop coding anything and just read your code. Make sure your code makes sense. Make sure your code seems like it's organized in a good way. Because what happens if you keep having this like either external or internal pressure to deliver features and deliver content, or not content, deliver like code, you end up hacking all this stuff together and you get to a point where it's like just a big ball of yarn or spaghetti, and it's very hard to like add more features to it because when you start adding or changing features here, it starts tugging on another feature and breaking it over here. So I think this advice, I don't know what this comment was in regards to, but these are things that are really important to understand as a developer. Maybe not as a beginner, because as a beginner, like you just need to learn the syntax and learn the function calls and learn all that. But as you get more mid and advanced, like these are the things that you have to, they start slowing you down because they're important to actually apply to your code bases. Especially when you have a team of like 9 developers. If you imagine you have 9 developers all pushing to the same code base, stuff can get out of hand pretty quick if you don't have standards set up, you don't have like some type of agreed upon structure or code formatting. Let me get off that topic though. Let's see. At the top right of chat, you can press the 3 dots and show timestamps. Can I though? Wow. Okay. Thank you so much. I definitely appreciate that. I am a tech noob sometimes. Dingo, good to see someone using the T3 stack. Yeah, I've been using it a lot. I kind of enjoy it. There's sometimes where I miss REST. Like, I'll make a TRPC endpoint, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to load up Postman and just test this endpoint. And then you realize that the interface for actually sending data is super, like, different. I don't want to say janky. Well, I'm not even using TRPC here. But yeah, I don't know. It's fun to it allows you to quickly prototype things from your in like a Next.js standpoint, in my opinion. Let's see. I don't have a CS degree and I self-learned whatever I know doesn't matter to companies because sending resumes to positions abroad, but I don't hear back. Yeah, I mean, the unfortunate truth is it does matter. Like, if you don't have work experience and there's two resumes that someone's looking at and someone has a CS degree and someone doesn't, they're going to pick the CS degree. Unless you have like a really awesome portfolio that shows you know how to code everything. Like, I think someone's more willing to take someone who's done 4 years of kind of intense learning of deeper level concepts in software engineering. But I don't want that to like discourage you. I mean, you still have a chance. I'm just saying that like when you send resumes to companies, you're competing against a bunch of other people, right? And a lot of these companies, their HR departments have filters set up on resumes to throw away. They basically just throw away resumes that don't have certain keywords in it. So if it, I don't want to discourage you. I'm going to stop talking about this topic, but I think it does potentially matter. But don't let that stop you from just keep trying, keep learning, and keep sending out resumes because eventually someone's going to see your stuff and see your portfolio and give you a chance and hire you. I'm confused where the context object comes from in the Create T3 app. Could you help me out? Yeah, let me just be honest. There's too many questions for me to even build anything. So let's just keep on doing questions. I'm not even in the mood to really build much anyway. So let's just go ahead and let's open up a T3 application that I have, which I think I have one. Thumbnail generator. I guess this one's one. Dating site. See all these random projects I have that I'm never gonna finish? Like that's the story of my life. So the context. He is asking about context, which if you look here, let me just say that the T3 Create T3 Stack app tool that builds up your project is changing a lot, or it has been changing a lot. So what I'm showing you here may be different from what you're seeing, but typically there's a context file. And inside of this create context, we're defining what your routers, what your router mutation and queries have access to, right? So you have access to rec, res, session, and Prisma. And you can add whatever you want to this object. Like I can add like hello, and that could be like, what is up? Okay, so when I add something to the context, if I go over to this, I can say context dot hello pops up, right? So I get that IntelliSense of my context, and that's how it works. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that's where the context is set up. And there's like a bunch of other stuff set up here with TypeScript where basically we get your context object. I'm sorry, we get your context function and then we infer the thing that was returned. So we take this object and we infer it, and then we get this router context. So that's like a TypeScript helper method that we use a couple of places. I believe that we use it. I believe they use it somewhere else too. Anyway, yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Avoid a name. I don't think we need more basic React courses. Honestly, there's too much market saturation. The React documentation is pretty good. Yeah, I think this is the one thing that I don't want to get into is there's like 1,000 React courses on Udemy, online, YouTube. So I don't think adding to the pool is going to help anyone out. You can just learn, like, just watch one course. And if you didn't learn from watching that course, then you need to find a different approach. Because buying a bunch of courses and rewatching someone explain like how to use a use state hook, how to use a use effect hook, you really just need to be explained it once, and then you need to go and you need to play around with it. You need to go and read the docs about it. Like videos are just good for an overview, but the real learning comes from struggling with trying to build something with it. So that's why I don't want to get into the course business or just making courses, because I just find them super boring. I know it helps a lot of people out there, but at the same time, it's like there's so many good course creators out there already that I just don't want to be another person making courses. I'd rather just record myself answering questions, live coding, building out random stuff, having random talks about software topics. I don't think there's enough channels that do that. And I think that's one reason why some channels blow up is because they're actually providing like content that isn't already out there. Will I make more refactor videos? I will. What time is it right now? I'm getting comments from 8:30 and it is 8:51. Oh my gosh. Do I talk too slow? Is that why I'm almost 20 minutes behind in comments? Maybe I should work my way backwards or something, but I feel bad skipping people's comments. Let me try to speed run this real quick. How much React are you supposed to know for a front-end role? Enough to build something. If you can't build something with your React knowledge, then you're not ready for a front-end role, right? You have to have something to show for it. And when I say build something, I mean like build something substantial, like a project that has 5-10 different endpoints, at least 5-10 routes, maybe even more than that if you can. Maybe look into authentication. Can you explain a bit about use transition? I've never used it. I think it's a way to like change the precedence of when state emits, like when state is changed or something. I don't know. Is it experimental? I think it might be up to date by now. Use transition. Is pinning indicates when a transition is active to show a pending state. Is pending. Use transition. Start transition. I guess it's just like a way to. Okay, yeah. Updates in a transition yields to more urgent updates, such as clicks. So I think it's like you can make something like I could put more code in this call, and this transition will be lower precedence. So like if I wanted to run a bunch of code and it's not as high priority, I can put it in a transition, but then I can also run some other code here. I don't know. I watched like a web dev simplified video about it. He kind of explained it pretty well. But it's one of those things where it's like, it's a cool hook. I never really used it in production. And if I haven't really used it in production, then why am I learning it? Like, what is the real use case for it? That could just be my ignorance speaking. Give me one second. All right, yeah, my nose was running for some reason. Let's see, any tips on how I could team up with other people to collaborate on a real project? Where to look for such stuff? Would it be useful at all? Worth the time? My advice on collaboration, I have a really jaded approach on, jaded experience with the collaboration. Literally, anytime I try to make a community project or I try to find people to work on stuff, people are hyped up for the first day and then they all vanish. Like this I've done this so many times, like people just disappear. So I don't know. I think you need to actually find like real people who are really willing to work with you and just find one person who's like dedicated. So you could join Discord channels and just like search around. But from what I found is you're going to find some people who say, yeah, I'll work on something. And then in a day or two, like they're offline forever. So I don't know. It's weird. Like people want to talk about getting good at programming and then they never do the work to get good at programming. They just kind of disappear. But yeah, I mean, you could join my Discord. Maybe there's some people who are really willing to like pair on something with you. I think collaboration is probably one of the best ways to learn because you actually have someone that like you can work on something with. But it's just hard to find people who are actually willing to work on stuff together and actually match up with your time zone as well. Astro allows you to pick your framework. It's a markdown for the most part, but allows you to import components and stuff from your framework. It isn't really replacing anything. It just makes sites faster with markdown. Yeah, I mean, it sounds cool. I'm just not a fan of making sites out of Markdown. Like, this seems like such a let's make a blog post approach to websites. Like, let's make a blog application. I think it has a specific use case. If you want to define all your data with Markdown or whatever Astro provides, like you can, I just rather be lower level and as close to the code as possible because I can write my own abstractions. I can write my own helper utility methods if I want to and not have to have a framework tell me exactly how to like do stuff. Because what I noticed about a lot of these frameworks is that you're going to run into edge cases where it becomes very hard to do exactly what you want because you have to follow with their conventions. But I'm not trying to say I never use Astro, so I don't know if it's cool or not. But hello, sir. Any resources on newbies how to design a program? Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. I apologize. The TS documentation is actually amazing. It's a great resource for learning it. Maybe. I think it's probably also pretty confusing for a beginner to read the TypeScript documentation, to be honest, Voided. But I haven't really looked through it. I think people underestimate like how confusing docs are for people who A, aren't native English speakers, and B, who aren't really technical savvy. Because you start reading through documentation and they start throwing out words that you have no idea what they mean, and then like you're 2 sentences in and you've reached like 17 words that you've never seen in your life, and you're like, dude, I thought this was supposed to be like an overview, like a like a crash course in documentation, and they've already said tons of stuff that literally no beginner knows about. So some stuff is hit and miss, and maybe the TypeScript documentation is pretty beginner friendly, but most docs are written for people who are already like mid or senior engineers, in my opinion. The React beta docs are really good. I will give them that. But the React docs, I think that's a good example, like before the beta, of like really smart people writing documentation, and you have to be really good to understand what text they're talking about. Hello from Turkey, though I am Kazakh expat. Can you please elaborate on what is the T3 stack? It's just basically using TypeScript, Tailwind CSS, Prisma, Next.js, and TRPC to build applications. Yep, got this. I'm so far behind. Yeah, let me know if this bothers you that I'm like 20 minutes behind in my comments, and if I should speed it up, or if you guys are getting value out of me reading really old comments. I don't know how to design a program. So I like to work with agile, like an agile mindset of building software. So I don't design things, I build things, and then I come back and I refactor those things to make them better. The word design is useful when you're building out like systems, I guess, or like little pieces of systems. But in terms of designing a program, I just think you end up over engineering stuff when you sit down on pen and paper and start like drawing boxes with the arrows and all this stuff. I rather just get into the code, make a class, and then start interacting with that other class and seeing how these modules can kind of communicate. And when you start seeing that there's too many like responsibilities of a module, you split it up into smaller ones. You see when one module is too coupled to another one, you split that up and decouple them. That's how I like the code. I don't really design much. Even with your database, like just start with a single table with a couple of columns. And as your application grows, keep writing migration scripts to either add new columns, add new tables. Let it be an iterative process of building out. No, designing a program takes 80% of the time. I would definitely disagree with that. Because no one's smart enough to sit down and design the program exactly how it needs to be. Unless you've built the program like 10 times already, like, I don't know. How to sync client in, I'm not too sure about that. I've only used IndexedDB. I've only looked at IndexedDB code. I have never actually written with it. Let versus var, which is better? I would never use var, in my opinion. I would turn that off, like never use var. There's no point to using it in this day and age. I want to make an app for a fitness brand, just an idea that I thought of yesterday. Right now, I know to code in JavaScript and React. What can I do next to make apps for fitness brands or smartwatches? I don't know how to answer this. I mean, just start building something. You must have a product idea that you want to build. So fitness bands or smartwatches. Oh, I guess he's asking like, I don't know how you build apps for that. Aren't those like running native code? Like maybe you need like React Native or something. Or you might need to go to like Swift or Objective-C to be able to write for like the Apple Watch. It does, it'll know it is the type hello. One second, my laptop is going to die, so let me just go ahead and switch my webcam off. What's up? You get the low budget view of me now. Um, what else should I? Let's see. Any resources? Yeah, maybe I'm not understanding. Like, I thought it would be a type string, not type hello. But any resources to teach how to write clean, maintainable code with examples that can differentiate between bad practice and good practice. I mean, there's some books out there you can read that kind of explain some concepts. Like, there's a clean code book. There's like a clean architecture book. Um, But honestly, I think most of this stuff is just learned over the years of just like really thinking about your code and thinking about like, is this actually good? Or is this going to turn into like a big ball of yarn soon? Yes, I want to answer the question. What is your favorite React.js design pattern? Don't know what that means. Design pattern. I mean, I don't follow, I would probably use something called Overmind.js if I was actually going to build like a real product. I wouldn't be using any of these hook things. I wouldn't be using React query and stuff. I like to keep all of my application logic separated from my views. Okay. No one really understands what that means, but I would use something like this because I think it helps you write better applications that you can easily test and refactor down the road. Is it possible to add and use non-TypeScript libraries in a TS module? Yeah, I think you can import whatever. I think you just have to like change how the import's done sometimes, depending on if it's like a common JS module or uh, ES6 module, I guess. It depends on how they compile their module. Science Blossom, I had a hard time adding TS to Chrome extension API library and I literally failed to get it working despite asking on official forums or other places, but I can use TS, but keeps using Chrome and JavaScript. Not sure what this question is. I mean, like, if you write your application in TypeScript, when Chrome runs it, you're going to see it in JavaScript. I mean, you could probably set up source maps. Is that what you're trying to say? Like, set up source maps so you can see like what line the TypeScript actually points back to. What are some topics I should learn and focus on if I want to transition from a mediocre React developer to an excellent one? I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm still like a mediocre React developer. That's why I make this YouTube channel and like these videos. I'm trying to get better at React. So there's so much about React. Like I never actually read through the docs is probably step one. If you can read through the entire documentation of React, that's step one. If you haven't done that yet, then you probably need to. It is a const. The type is a string of hello, hello. Okay. So yeah, everyone here is killing it at TypeScript and I'm struggling. So I don't want to put on resume right now. I'm doing internship, working on project, and on the side, I'm working on another work. Is that good enough to put on a resume? I'm trying to digest this question. I don't want to put on resume now. I'm doing an internship, working on a project, and on the side, working on another project. Is that good enough to put on a resume? You start the sentence with, I don't want to put it on my resume. Should I put it on my resume? I guess you're asking, yeah, I mean, you should put the internship on your resume. And if you're working on a large side project, you should probably put that on your resume too. What time is it? 5. Okay. Yeah, I would definitely just put them on your resume, but work experience should be highlighted first. Aman says, always been a fan, Cody. You're a great guy. Thank you so much for watching my streams and watch my content. And I'm glad it's been helping you over the months or years or however long you've been watching me make videos. Yeah, I would add both to your resume. James, do you have an opinion on Remix? I haven't used Remix before, so I don't know. I mean, it seems like it's probably okay. I'm just tired of learning new frameworks and libraries, so I'm just sticking with Next and building stuff. Oh, thank you so much. I definitely appreciate those kind words. Stomach is growling right now. Do you like Chakra UI? I mean, I've tried using it like on one little side project. Seems like it's pretty cool. I don't really know though. Like, It's like a different way of styling your components, and I'm not sure if I like it. I'll be honest with you. I rather do Tailwind. I think sticking to classes still enables you to have some level of like decoupling from your styling and your components. Chakra UI, like, I don't know. I'm not going to talk bad about it, but it's just, I don't know if I truly like it. But I do like how they give you a bunch of like components out of the box that you don't have to worry about. So that's pretty cool. Do you guys have any tips or advice or pieces of wisdom in programming? Man, yeah, I don't know. Keep trying to learn, find someone smarter than you and like follow them and learn from them. And sometimes take a break. This is like a good tip. Take a break sometimes when you're stuck because there's so many times where I take a break, come back, and the answer comes to my head in 5 minutes. Like you'll be sitting there for like 4 hours trying to debug something. You step away, you come back, and you just fix it. So don't like burn up all your mind power like trying to do stuff. Sometimes take breaks. How to maintain your concentration for a longer duration of time. I don't know. Sometimes I like putting on music. Put on a certain type of music that's not too distracting so you can actually like get into the flow of just like doing stuff. Turn off any type of notifications. Don't go on Facebook. Don't go on social media. Just focus on what you're trying to do. Let's see. Groove Sexana. I'm 3 years experience, but I have like 4 projects in my resume to show for as they are my best work. It all depends on how much you can explain about those projects in an interview. Yeah, it's good to like, it's cool to have 4 projects and like, I think he has a good point. Like the point of the projects is to get your resume or your name noticed because you might get lucky. One of those interviewers decides to go check out your resume and then look to your projects and say, oh, okay, this guy's built some pretty cool stuff. But secondly, when they actually bring you in for the interview, they're going to ask you questions like, what was the most difficult challenge that you've had building out your project A on your portfolio? And you want to be able to feel like you own that domain of talk, right? You should be able to talk about your project. What was the hardest thing? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? So it's good to have like some things that you can actually like have a conversation about. Like maybe be like, oh, well, I started the project in React.js using Create React App. And then I realized that I needed to do a lot of search engine optimization. So I decided to switch and pivot to using Next.js because I feel like that would provide me, an easier way to do SEO. Like just that, if you can say that sentence and like prove that you actually know what the heck you're talking about, I think it just sells yourself. YK, hey, can I ask what localhost program you use on Mac? I don't know what that means. Oh my gosh, there's too many questions. Ivan, I love React, but I hate CSS. Will I have problems with the junior job? Maybe. I think everyone kind of hates CSS. I think there's only a small subset of people who actually enjoy writing CSS. But I mean, a junior job, I think you're probably going to be tasked, if it's like a junior front end position, you're probably going to be tasked with writing a bunch of components and styling those components and maybe fixing some like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you have a problem with getting a job, but I think you're going to have to learn CSS and figure it out. Either that or just switch and go to backend where you don't have to worry about CSS at all. How can I start with React? What are the best options to start? I would say make sure you know JavaScript pretty well and make sure you can build like a really basic application using JavaScript and DOM manipulation. Make sure you understand like what is a callback function, what is a closure in JavaScript. What else does React kind of, at least functional React? Like make sure you understand object references. Make sure you understand what mutable versus immutable is first before you start diving into React because there's a lot of topics that React builds upon that I think you might get a little stuck if you're not familiar with those. Best options to start, I don't know, watch a couple of YouTube videos, get an overview, read through the docs, create an application and just start building out a really basic page that increments a counter or does something really basic and then just keep adding to it. Maybe connect to an API and do that. Like if you haven't built an application that knows how to fetch data from an API using JavaScript, then I would not use React yet. Like get the basics down. Gustavo Costa, in your opinion, when should someone who is learning React start to migrate to Next.js? When we build an Express server, should we serve the folder dist or use a different port? I mean, that's all up to you. I like to keep my client and server separate and decoupled. At least back when I was doing like great React apps such as V applications. Because like your backend could be written in whatever language you want, right? It could be written in Go, Rust, PHP, doesn't really matter. And typically when you host a UI, you're not going to be hosting it on an Express server. You're going to host it on a CDN, such as like I think Cloudflare might support it. Netlify, Vercel, like you're going to host your UI on a CDN so that it's really quick to load. And it's just a bunch of static files if you're using a single page application approach. When should you migrate to Next though? I feel like you can migrate to Next when you have a good understanding of React, right? You've built out an application. I feel like I'm just repeating myself. Just build something, just build something, just build something. Let's see. I like your little tutorials as they're helpful little snapshots, but you do definitely need to do further digging. That's the same with any language. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a lot of stuff I need to do digging into. Like, I feel like I have a surface level understanding of a lot of things, and I just haven't really spent the time to dive deeper into the docs and deeper into how stuff works. Because I try to like learn the least amount I can to get the job done. If I don't need to know something, I'd rather not learn it because there's already so much stuff you have to learn. So if I can go like 4 years without understanding how React's rendering and reconciliation and commits work, which I have. Like I just recently started reading about reconciliation and how that stuff works. If I can go 4 years on a full-time business application and not need to know about that stuff, then it's probably not that important. It is important if you really care about like, you know, performance tuning and tweaking and making sure your application shaves off 5 milliseconds. But my point is like I like to learn just like the surface level, just enough to get the job done, and then I dig deeper when I need to dig deeper. I don't feel like there's a need to just dig deeper just because. Some people like learning stuff deeper, like getting deeper knowledge just because they like doing that stuff and tinkering. But I like just building stuff, which kind of bites me in the butt sometimes because I do stuff suboptimally. But you're able to get a lot done just by like learning what you need to learn. I haven't tried Million.js. I don't even know what that is. Gaming and Tech Noons and all the new React devs try NetNinja's React course for beginners with the same name as YouTube as well. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good content creators out there that are making like really high quality courses that really break down these topics. But I was never one to really watch tutorial videos. I rather just set up an application and just start playing around. That's how I learned. I don't really learn from someone just like showing me this is how you use a hook. I like to go and like type out the hook, watch it fail, be confused why its stuff's not re-rendering, play around with that until that knowledge is like baked into my head. Ivan Pavlo, who do you think has the best YouTube channel connected to web dev? For me, is Web Dev Simplified. I like watching Chris Hawks, Code Hawks. I don't know if you've seen him. I don't really watch too many YouTubers anymore, to be honest. Like, because I have no need to like watch someone explain how to do like basic stuffs in JavaScript or basic stuff in React anymore. Like, there's definitely great people who publish great content like Web Dev Simplified. I've been watching a lot of Theo. I don't know if you've seen Theo Ping GG, who kind of coined the T3 stack. That's one person I watch a lot. I haven't really been watching him much lately, but I was watching him for a while, which he's entertaining to watch. I am using the Material Community High Contrast theme. Just finished my bootcamp and it heavily emphasized React. Hit me up for collaboration. Yeah, so right here, someone wants to collaborate with you, so maybe you guys go join me Discord, exchange information or something. I don't know, figure that out. Sir, is a good idea to learn React.js after learning JavaScript? Suggest me, sir. Yeah, I think it's a good idea to learn one of the frameworks. Like, you don't have to just learn React. You could learn Vue, you can learn Svelte. I think once you have a good, solid foundation of JavaScript, you can move on to these other frameworks that really help building out applications become easier. Yeah, Ivan says every doc should include quick start or beginner-friendly overview of the main features. Yeah, I mean, if it's a good documentation, they should, and they should break it down to like a beginner level. Let's see. Several projects on my resume, but still no suggest at a job in companies abroad. Yeah, I feel like it'd be pretty hard to get a job abroad. Like, I'm not sure what company would be willing to risk hiring some person overseas, especially if they already have a pool of candidates that literally live like down the street. You know what I'm saying? Like, unless it's just a remote position and they don't really care and they're trying to just hire whoever they can. But I feel like most of the time a company is going to hire people who are kind of living in the same state. It might just be easier for them business wise. I don't know, like legally wise, tax wise. Pretty much, yeah, yeah. So now I'm finally at this comment, and a half hour later, I have reached this point. Oh my gosh, there's too many questions. Is there a way to? Oh yeah, I would say just join my Discord, y'all, and like message each other. And if you join with a different name than Daily Dose of Chocolate, then good luck. I think it's better at your own pace. Don't skip any potential questions. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll just continue doing what I'm doing. I think it also keeps people around in the stream because they're like eager to get to their question, and then they sit around for longer because like they know their question is about to come up, and then 30 minutes later they're still sitting around waiting for me to answer their question. Can you do a project with Redux? Are you asking like can I make a video about Redux? I have a couple of videos on my channel about Redux, but honestly I don't like using Redux. Redux toolkit's a little bit better. Maybe that's what you mean by Redux. I think Redux is just an over-engineered mess in my opinion, but let me not dissuade you from Redux. Can you build one generic API for mobile web API app with TRPC? To be honest, I don't know. Like TRPC just communicates over HTTP calls, right? So you could potentially connect to your TRPC server and just figure out the contract. Maybe there's a TRPC client you can use on your web page or your mobile application. But yeah, TRPC, the selling point is if your front end and your back end are TypeScript. If you're not both in TypeScript, I don't see what the purpose of TRPC is. Maybe I need to read more of the docs, and maybe there is a purpose. But I think the selling point is if you own the full stack, like the front end and the back end, and you have the ability to say, I'm using TypeScript for everything, then that's when you use TRPC. I think the T in TRPC stands for TypeScript. Maybe it's just typed. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the T for TRPC stands for TypeScript, or it could just be type safety. I don't know. TS documentation is not amazing. Read about some configs like module resolution. How should even a mid-level developer understand that? Yeah, I don't know. I need to go back and read the docs, but like I said, I think some people write docs thinking that everyone else is like a genius and like they're on on the same levels that they are, but they forget that there's people who literally don't even know how to write like a callback function who are trying to read your docs and they don't know what the heck anything is going on. Okay, I'm going to speed through these a little bit. How would you ever use plain Redux without Redux toolkit? Oh, would I ever use? No, I would never use plain Redux. I just feel like there's just too much overhead of like creating these actions and the reducers. I think reducers are just an overall complication of keeping track of state. The actions, like the decoupling that Redux provides might be great for a huge application with tons of people. The one reason I don't like traditional Redux is any component can dispatch an action, which means that you could have thousands of reducers potentially listening for that action. In most cases, it's one action calls one reducer and that's it. But like you've decoupled the application in such a way that the event system is so hard to follow that they had to create like a a Redux toolkit extension in Chrome so you can actually understand what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, if I can't command click on a function and go to where that function is declared, you've created a coupling, which is good, but you've also created an indirection, which is super hard to follow as a developer and as a beginner, right? If I have to grep my entire project for my actions, then you just made something so much more complex than what it needs to be. But someone who's better at Redux, and maybe there's ways to hook that up so you can still do like command click on stuff and go directly to the declaration to figure out where that action is being used in what reducer. One thing I didn't like about Redux either is you can't really share state in between your reducers. So like they're all isolated, but sometimes like I need to grab something from a higher level and use it. So then you have to like pass that in your action and fetch it from other places. I don't know. It just seems kind of hacky. But that's my opinion on it. Do I need to be an expert in JavaScript for a front-end dev? No, I don't think you have to be an expert in anything to be anybody in software, right? If you're actually building if you're hired to be an expert, like you're hired as a database consultant, then yeah, you should probably be an expert in like databases. If you're hired as a JavaScript React consultant for a company and you come in and your job is to teach everybody how to properly do JavaScript and React, then yeah, you should probably be an expert. But if you're just trying to get a job and you want to be able to build things, I don't think you need to be an expert. Like you can be mediocre and still get a job. But yeah, you're going to need JavaScript for front-end development, I guess maybe that's his question. Sir, can I see the code behind any library module of Python? I don't know. I don't write Python. One thing I've noticed is that like all these JavaScript shorts I'm making, like I get so many comments about Python can do this and Go can do this. It's like, dude, this is a short about JavaScript. Why are you guys all talking about different languages? You know what I mean? It's like I'm not this short was about JavaScript. Why are you guys keep on commenting about Python? It's kind of strange. It's like people just want to kind of talk about their language. I'm not trying to, sorry, on my way, I'm not trying to like attack you. This is, I'm talking about something else, but let me just scroll past that. Have you been using EXTJS? For me, it was a horrible experience. I'd never used that before. I don't even know what that means. Yeah, I think this is a good comment. Not an expert, but you should be good enough. You should be good enough to build stuff. If someone asks you to build something, you should be able to figure out and build it. You don't need to know like all the intricacies of JavaScript and like, oh, this is what a proxy is and this is what a generator is. You just need to know how to build something and maybe properly know how to structure your code in a clean way. Do you recommend Tailwind CSS for big projects? I don't know. I never used Tailwind CSS for big projects, so I can't answer that question. A lot of these things that people hype up on YouTube, like they seem cool for your little side projects, and then you start using them for like a big team of 10 developers, and the entire thing just starts falling apart because it's not manageable. I'm not saying Tailwind's not manageable. I'm just saying I haven't used it, so I can't give you my perspective on it. I use Sass on my project at work, and it works pretty fine. There's sometimes issues with Sass where you have like things that are overriding other things, but if you structure your Sass properly, you can, again, it can be maintainable for big projects. Does anyone know if you can work with React and TypeScript together? Yes, you can. Oh, Tailwind and TypeScript. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure about that one. CSS live for reactive native. Docker UI aligns with mobile app development components. If you're looking to get into Flutter or Swift, you'll notice a lot of similarities. How can I improve my JavaScript practical skills? Keep building stuff and keep solving problems. I think doing like these coding challenges stuff like HackerRank or whatever else is out there, I think those are great ways to practice a language and a syntax and understand all the helpful utility functions that are part of that language. Another way is just read through the docs. Make sure you understand like what are all the JavaScript array methods. What does map do? What does filter do? What does reduce do? And then get good at coding those up because you don't want to be like fumbling around trying to code up JavaScript map function. You want to know exactly what it does, what it returns, and how to use it. Do you use Tailwind? I use it for side projects. That's it. CSS is key to learn Tailwind. Yeah, I think you need to decently know CSS to be able to use Tailwind, in my opinion. Learn Redux or Redux Toolkit. I would learn Redux Toolkit. If I had to choose between one, I would choose Toolkit mainly because I like mutating state. I know people say mutations are bad, but I think mutating state, like having a variable that you can just mutate the state, it's much easier to comprehend in my opinion. And there's a lot of extra overhead that Redux uses. But if I had to choose, I wouldn't use either of those. I'd probably use like start with context. If context isn't meeting your needs, well, in Zustan, if Zustan's not meeting your needs, continue up and try different state managements. Do the simplest thing first to get your application built. And if it's not working for you and your team, pause, refactor. Hello, how do you improve in TypeScript? I feel like writing React apps with TypeScript makes a lot of limitations because frontend doesn't require that much advanced knowledge or advanced logic. I don't know. I've been learning more about TypeScript just by building out Next.js applications. And most of the stuff I am struggling over is with the front end React code. So I'm not sure if I fully understand your question here. Dylan Smith, I've been enjoying your videos. Thanks for the content. Yeah, thanks for watching them. I'm glad they've been helping you out. Science Blossom. In my opinion, I always feel there are a difference between being a maker and a builder and being a deep knower of how things work. Just my feelings. I mean, there definitely is a difference. There's people who really like to get into the intricacies of a library and a framework and really like dive deep into something. And there's other people who just want to build stuff. They just want to make stuff. And there's the reason we have a team of developers is because you're going to have some people who are really good at just knocking out features. And then you're going to have these deep learners who are going to review that code and be like, look, there's a better way that you can do this because I just spent 2 days reading all the documentations and diving into the framework code. And these type of people kind of make a good team because you have these people kind of checking the work of these people, but then you have these people who are actually delivering the features at a rapid pace. So there's different types of people and different types of like ways they like to code and learn, and it's just a great way to mix things up. I wish I was kind of more of a deep learner because sometimes like I'm doing stuff in my YouTube videos and I'm like, dude, if I just spent like 4 hours reading the docs, I'd probably be able to explain this better, but I just hate reading docs. That's my downfall. That is my downfall. If I ever have to join an interview and they ask me what's my weakness, I'm going to say reading. Reading docs just bores me. And I could just do a lot better if I could just read through the entire docs and like commit it to memory. Learning vanilla Redux is good only if you want to dig deeper and understand what's going on, or if you want to use it for applications, use Redux Toolkit, much easier and more up to date. Yeah, I agree. They're still trying to contact each other. Ujal. I made several projects by watching tutorials bot, but cannot make my own. Yeah, this is the main issue with watching tutorials and making tutorials is like I don't feel like they teach you how to think. They teach you how to type code. And I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to get at with my videos is like I want to show you how to think. I want to walk you through my thought process. Why did I name this component this way? Why did I put this component in this file instead of this file? Why did I let this component take in 5 props instead of 3 props? These are the decisions that you have to figure out. And tutorial doesn't tell you that. It just tells you how to type code. And it's like, I don't know, I've watched some tutorials sometimes and it just seems so rehearsed and just boring. I can't imagine learning how to code. But some people do learn to code from tutorials, so I'm not trying to bash tutorials. It's just not for me. Solid.js is the next React version. I've been learning to change my React projects to Solid. Yeah, I need to check it out. People keep talking about it, but honestly, it just seems like another framework that does the exact same thing as React. That's maintained by a smaller community. So, I don't know. But I'm sure it's good. I'm sure it's pretty solid. Capper, what's your favorite CSS framework and what's your approach of styling in your React projects? Right now, I've been doing a lot of Tailwind CSS, but sometimes I do just miss Sass, right? I miss just making a class and assigning that to an object, and that's it. But Tailwind CSS works pretty well. See, they're still trying to contact each other. I'm a junior developer and I'm still trying to learn new things outside of work. Your content has been very, very useful when dealing with when dealing with more advanced concepts. Big thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate the kind words. I'm glad my stuff has been helpful to all, or to you at least. Can you make a video about the different deploy strategies? My projects are just code in a GitHub repo. I would like to deploy them. Yeah, that might be a good topic idea. I would say join my Discord and paste this comment. I'll do it for you. I'll just do this. Okay, they're answering questions. What time is it? Hey, Tina, are you still watching my stream? Hey, baby, are you still watching my stream? I'm asking my wife if she's still watching. I need to know what time I should end this so I can go help out with the kids and stuff. I think we're gonna leave soon. Have a different name, please. Okay, they're still talking. Okay. Do you think it would be hard to switch from system engineers to a web dev mid-level? I mean, I think that depends on your ability to learn new things. I think C and C++ is a completely different landscape than web dev. Web dev is kind of overwhelming in my opinion. But I say that, but then if I were to try to join C and C++, I would be completely overwhelmed. Like, I don't know how to deal with pointers anymore. I don't know how to deal with memory management. Last time I used C and C++ with like Visual Studios, I spent like 8 hours just trying to import a DLL and like use a third-party library. So when you go to web dev, more specifically, like if you're using Yarn or npm, you can bring in a library and get it running in literally like 30 seconds. Versus back when I was trying to learn how to build a really basic application with OpenCV and C++, I had no idea how to like install these binaries and these DLLs and these library files, or they call linkers. I'm just throwing keywords out there at this point. I don't even know what those things mean anymore. Header files, I guess is what I was trying to say. I have no idea how to set that stuff up. Yeah, I apologize on my way. I think I have made some Python videos. So I apologize for like talking poorly about Python. But yeah, I don't remember how to write in Python anymore. How many full stack projects should I have in my portfolio? I mean, I don't know. I'm not a hiring manager, but if I was a developer trying to hire like an intern or a junior dev, I would expect one project that's actually larger in scale. If you just come to me and you have a portfolio and you have like a to-do list application or a tic-tac-toe application or any application that you could literally watch a tutorial and type up, that's not going to impress me. Like, you need to have something that you actually built, and I see the commits and I go in your GitHub repo and I see that you've been working on this for months. That's something that would impress me. Thank you so much for answering questions on my behalf. Watch Tech. Prior to previous question, yes, you can use TypeScript with Tailwind. Just check the docs. Cool. We'll go check the docs. Although I'm not really sure what you would use Tailwind and TypeScript for, because I mean, when I use Tailwind in my browser or in VS Code, I just have an extension that kind of autocompletes some of the stuff for me. What's your favorite line of code? I don't even know what that means. I like using the proxy keyword in JavaScript. I think those are pretty cool. Yeah, I need to find some. Many people are asking about JavaScript clean code and design patterns. I don't really know. Just keep building stuff. How to stay motivated? I think I burnt out pretty bad. I mean, you could always just take breaks, Rohan. But yeah, I think if you try to code too much, like, you're just gonna burn out. And especially like a lot of the people who I'm hearing stories on my Discord of people who work like in India and they're being asked to work like 12-hour shifts every day and they're not getting paid for the overtime. So I find that crazy, but I think that's just a situation like as you're an intern and a junior in some places and some companies and some countries, like you're going to be overworked and it's kind of like culturally expected for you to work until you finish the work. Versus here in the US, like once you hit those 8 hours, like just clock out, like you're done. Um, like we got stuff we got to go do. We got family to go do. Um, are you going to code the stream? I was going to, but I'd rather just answer questions. Like I'm kind of like Rohan just mentioned, like I've been coding a lot in the videos and doing all the shorts and doing a lot of coding tutorials on my channel, just like live coding or refactoring. I'm kind of burned out on coding. So I'd rather just answer questions, to be honest. Yeah, I won't say how much I'm paid or my job. I just want to talk about my job, to be honest. Rohan says, find your pace. I burned out as well when I was programming every day for like 10 hours. But I found out 4 to 6 hours is perfect for me, so I can write every day. Yeah, again, like the issue with this comment is that I think he's working as an intern right now, and he's being expected to work 12 hours a day. And I'm assuming if he decides to just leave after 4 to 6 hours, he's going to lose that internship position and get fired. So it's kind of it's rough, I would say. Yeah, I have to go back and check out Solid. The fact that you said decoupling state and components would fit well with your focus on architecture and structure as you grow your components, and Solid does not impact performance. Yeah, cool. I mean, I'll go give it a shot maybe when I get some time. There's too much docs to read. Yeah, there's a lot of docs that you always have to read. Do you have any experience in Web3? I do. I started looking to Ethereum and building out smart contracts, and like people actually contacted me, and I was building out NFT sites and like connecting with a smart contract and deploying those contracts. But I just don't want to get into that space. I just don't believe in crypto. Um, I feel like it's an idea that has potential, and I think a lot of people are accessing its potential. But until like it's more user friendly for like the average non-technical user, I just don't see that big of use for it. I think I made a video where I was complaining about Ethereum. I will say there are uses of crypto. Like it's cool that I can send money to anyone in the world over crypto. But then there's like extra complexity because like there's certain blockchains that you have to send crypto in if you send it with the wrong blockchain. Like I tried to send some person some crypto using like the Ethereum network, but they're using like a Binance Ethereum network. So when I sent the money, like they just didn't get it because I had to send it from the same exchange. So there's just like a lot of hidden complexity that the average consumer is literally just losing money because it's just too confusing. And then there's just too many scammers out there with like NFTs and whatever else with Web3. Yeah, I've done some Web3 stuff. I'm just not interested in it. I just don't think that me investing time in Web3 is a good use of my time. I rather invest in the things that's going to keep me having a solid job, which is web development, React, uh, building out APIs with traditional stuff. I guess I need to actually like read more about it. Like I feel like a lot of people with blockchain and Web3 are visionaries, but then like when it comes to actually like doing stuff and you start realizing that, oh, I can actually send money pretty easily using PayPal or the current stuff we have. Or like, let's say someone were to steal all of my crypto wallet currencies. Like if I was just using a bank and a credit card, like they'll pay me that money back for the most part. Like I can argue. Let me get off this topic of Web3. I don't even care about it. Let's see. The API between Solid and React is very similar, but the mechanisms behind it differ a lot. For me, I wouldn't be able to go back. The cognitive overhead of React is a lot. Yeah, this is one thing I hate about React. I've made some videos about how I hate React. It's just confusing. Like even for a senior developer, there's times you're getting tripped up over simple stuff like state, or why is my app not re-rendering, or why is my app doing an infinite loop and like doing 1,000 requests to my API. There's stuff like this that like it's a big smell in my opinion of the framework, because in order to use the framework you have to have like a deep understanding of the framework, and that goes against like the purpose of a framework. The framework is supposed to abstract a lot of stuff away from you. So it's super easy to build applications. And I think React fails poorly at that. Right? There's a lot of React fanboys out there, fangirls out there who are gonna try to come in and defend React, but at the same time, like, dude, use Svelte. It just makes more sense. Solid.js, I need to check it out. It's just intuitive, right? If something's not intuitive, then maybe we shouldn't be using it. But I think there's just so much momentum and so much mass behind React. It's like, it is what it is. You just got to learn it if you want to get a job. So I'm hoping that'll change. Are there any plans for a data structure and algorithm series for Vanilla.js? Probably not, I'll be honest with you. You can go watch that one guy who advertises his business all the time about coding challenges. What? CSS with JavaScript. On my way, sir. Using inbuilt functions and writing program and creating your own function while solving problems is better. Are you asking, like, should I use third-party libraries or should I write my own functions? Not sure what that question is. I mean, it's good to like write your own lower level functions once in a while. Like if you don't know how to write your own map function or your own filter function using like a traditional for loop and like pushing stuff to an array and then returning that array, it's good to write once or twice to understand like how does map work under the hood? How does filter work under the hood? How does reduce work under the hood? But once you figure that out, like you don't need to use it anymore, right? Use the actual built-in functions that are in the language. Bring in Lodash and use some of these built-in functions that do the work for you. Right? It's good to like get that deeper understanding of how to like write these programs. But yeah, why do you use Next instead of React? Same questions. Well, Next is built off of React. So I guess your question is why do I not use like Vite single page application? I think Next I just feel more efficient at. And I can like quickly build out applications using Next versus there's nothing wrong with just using a single page application or React. If you don't need any type of search engine optimization or server-side rendering, then you can use SPA with React. Why do I use TypeScript? TypeScript makes me more efficient. Like, I've gone back. I've been using TypeScript for a while now, and when I go back to JavaScript code and I try to refactor, it's like a nightmare because I have to remember, like, what arguments does this function take? What are the types of those functions? If I start passing stuff incorrectly, I don't know I broke anything until I go to the UI and refresh. A lot of times when I'm refactoring TypeScript code, I can just move code around, and as long as my code editor is not red, I'm pretty certain that I didn't break anything. So I mean, I think most beginners should probably start with TypeScript because JavaScript, like I guarantee you, there's people in this stream who have wasted 4 hours debugging a simple JavaScript error. Like they just typed something wrong. They left off an S when they tried to call a function, and I guarantee you, if they used TypeScript, they would have had that bug fixed in 5 minutes. Hey, which is better for API calls on backend in your opinion, Node Fetch or Axios? Honestly, I don't care. I would maybe just use Node Fetch. I think in our project at work we use Axios, but honestly, it doesn't really matter to me. Like they both literally do the same thing. It's just like a different way to do it. I don't think one's better than the other. Some people argue that Axios is bad and like we shouldn't be using Axios. I just don't care in my opinion. Like just use whatever works and abstract it away. So if you decide that in 5 years you want to switch from Axios to something else, it's really easy to do. I'm a friend in Dev React. I want to build good a full stack project. Any suggestions on tech stack backend? Keep in mind. I mean, I'm gonna say Next with TypeScript. You can use REST if you want. You can use like traditional REST. You can use whatever UI component library. You want to use Chakra, that's cool. Tailwind, that's cool. But the main things I would say is Next, TypeScript, and then maybe SQL or Mongo. Again, like I don't really have strong opinions on a lot of stuff. Like a database is a database. Like you just need some data to store it somewhere and you need a way to retrieve that data. And until you get to like an actual like real scale of a project, it doesn't really matter what you pick. It's when you start getting to a larger team with like a larger application that actually has to be dealing with lots and lots of customer data. That's when these decisions really make a difference. And if you're a beginner or a junior, you're not in charge of making those decisions. A senior developer is going to be the one to say, we have to use Mongo for this feature because it gives us A, B, and C. Or we need to use SQL for this feature because it gives us relational data and it's much easier to do complex queries or something. I'm looking for my first job as a developer. I currently work as an ICU nurse. Dang, my wife's a nurse and nursing is not easy. I'm glad you're making the switch to a developer. It's going to be much easier in my opinion. But wondering how to deal with imposter syndrome. I don't know how to say this without being rude, but I mean, you are an imposter, right? You are a beginner developer. You don't know much about developing. You haven't had a full-time developer job. So in a sense, like you might feel like you have imposter syndrome, and it's probably because you are like a beginner. So until you actually start building more things and getting more confidence and more experience, you're always going to feel like an imposter. But I don't think using the word imposter syndrome for your situation is what you should be calling it. You should be calling it lack of confidence due to a lack of knowledge. I don't know if that was rude. I apologize if that was a rude statement, but I'm just being transparent with you. Imposter syndrome is someone who's been like in the industry for a long time, but they still feel like they just don't know what they're doing. Versus like if I was asked to go work as a nurse, I wouldn't feel like I was an imposter. I would feel like I have no idea what I'm doing because I never worked as a nurse before. You know what I mean? TypeScript is just better in my opinion. Yes, it is. I've finally come to terms with it, and TypeScript is much better than using JavaScript. MedWeb, it's something a lot of people are coping with. You need to get some work done, work smarter rather than hard, and believe in yourself. I have 20 years of experience, and I have the same problem. Yeah, so definitely agree with what he said. Like, just get some work done, and just realize that even people with a lot of experience, like right now, Bastian, Weg, I don't know what you work on full time, but if I were to say you need to implement a system that uses Amazon Web Services and uses like DynamoDB, that's probably going to trigger his imposter syndrome because he's trying to do something that he may have never done before, which doesn't mean he can't do it, right? The job is more about learning new things and being able to use those technologies. It's less about like what you know. It's more about like how good are you at learning new things and like switching and pivoting and refactoring and stuff like that. Like right now, like people could ask me, what do I know about Go? I don't know anything about Go. I've never used Golang in my life. I've just watched a video on it once. So if I was put into a position where I had to use Go, I'm probably going to feel like an imposter. But at the same time, I know that I don't know Go. So my expectations of like what I should be able to produce are going to be super low. So just keep your expectations normal, or like keep your expectations at where you think they should be. If you're a beginner, your expectations for yourself should be pretty low. JavaScript is often difficult to understand, and it can get even more complicated when you add React to it. Don't want to drown in all this mess when I use TypeScript. Should I be afraid? No, at the very beginning of the stream, I talked about how you can use TypeScript and just like minimally add as little typing as you can, and just slowly keep adding more types until you get to the point where like you're more familiar with it. Hello, I'm currently in coding school, 4 months in. What would you recommend me to do while in school and get better at it? Yeah, I don't know. Just keep on coding, keep on practicing. I don't know why there's so much hate for Redux. I work with it with my team and it gets my work done and has pretty good dev tools. My main complaint about Redux is that there's like this unnecessary coupling between what your UI is doing when you dispatch events and what's actually consuming those events, right? Now, for your project, maybe your project has reached a scale that's large enough where like this is super important. But for a project that you're just starting off, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but can you command click on a action that was dispatched and know exactly which reducer is using that? If you can, then I'm going to change my mind on Redux and maybe go back and revisit it. But if you can't and you have to go back and use some third-party tool in the Chrome browser just to know what reducers fired when you sent off an action, and most of the time I'm going to guess that only a single reducer files for a single action, so you have this like one-to-one relationship between actions and reducers, then what's the point of decoupling those? Just connect them together so that in the code you can easily just follow what happens when I call this function. But yeah, I don't know. I've used it in the past, and like I also don't like the reducer pattern in React. I think it's an unnecessary overcomplication. It's like I just want to have some state and change it. I like mutating some state. Rohan, how to understand complex code? Yeah, I don't know. I just start at like the top level and just try to understand like how all the things connect together and how state's changing as the code is being invoked. But it just takes a lot of time to understand some complex codes and components and stuff. Like, did you actually get around to understanding the that tutorial widget I gave you? I am struggling in Next with code splitting code to components in all the projects in the index file. Yeah, I don't know what your specific question is here, I guess. Yeah, I would start by like function by function and just understand like when the component mounts or something, like what happens. And then when you call a function, what happens to state? And when you call a different function, what happens to state? Yeah, so to learn TypeScript, again, like I would just create a really basic TypeScript application using Next. So like typically if you're using Next.js, you can like spin up a project that has TypeScript all built in. And like I said earlier, like you can go in here and you can tell it to not require implicit innies, or you can allow it to, you can set it up so you can do implicit innies, and then you can slowly come in and just add types to variables and stuff that, you know, help you along the way. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and just end the last question on this one. So if any more questions come in, I'm not gonna answer it. I'm gonna drop here soon. So let's see. Mega Bugsy, any project you know that could be good to start from beginner? I'm learning JavaScript, HTML, CSS at the moment. I'm building personal site, but I still feel like I don't know JavaScript even though I'm using it. Yeah, I don't really know of good ideas. Like, just build something that you either want to build or like clone an existing project. I know that's like a bad answer, but I don't really have like a bunch of ideas in my back pocket. I would just clone something that you like using, like Facebook Marketplace, clone that, or Craigslist, clone that, and just try to build that with just the basics. Total hit, never worked with Amazon or DynamoDB. I'm the CTO of Cinetels. We do data science and SaaS. Would you recommend migrating from simple SPA, Beach React router to Next? What are the trades? I mean, it depends on your business needs. Like, do you have to use a lot of search engine optimization at your current company? Like, when people go to your UI, do you expect Google to index all your pages? If you already have that problem tackled by using something like Helmet or something, then maybe you don't care about it. But I don't think there's anything wrong with a single page application, especially if you're dealing with like an internal dashboard where someone has to like log in, and once they log in, they get these like graphs and charts and diagrams and all this other stuff. Like an SPA is fine. And switching over to Next, I'm always like in the back of my mind thinking like, is this just coupling me to the Vercel platform, or is this actually truly 100% not coupled to Vercel? Because I think at the end of the day, like Next is kind of like a funnel to get you to deploy your UI into Vercel. That's just what I kind of feel. I mean, I know you can run a Next application by yourself, but it's a lot more work because then you have to figure out how to get the API to deploy to serverless by yourself. There's like a plugin you can use to deploy Next to Amazon, but it's a lot of extra work. So I do think there is some form of coupling going on when you use Next that kind of makes it a little bit more difficult to understand how do you deploy this stuff doing the proper like edge computing that Vercel would provide. But as far as Next, I think Next is really great for rapid prototyping. You just have to be careful to make sure you're not coupling everything to Next, because at some point you might decide you don't want to use Next, and you got to figure that out. Oh, thank you so much for the super chat. You are my idol. Thank you so very much. Well, I'm glad you find my content useful. I hope you guys are in my stream and my channel, on my Discord, I mean, and just feel free to go in there and ask questions. That decoupling issue is a thing for sure in Redux. Zustian solves that issue, I guess. Never used it. Your state management go-to. Again, I like using Overmind.js. This is like literally all your state of your application is pulled out to a global state tree. and you have a decoupling that's still happening, but your components read from that state tree and they write to that state tree. Okay, so any component can read from anything in your global state tree. Maybe that's a bad thing, but there's still a separation of concerns and logic that helps you write better applications when I'm using Overmind.js. Now, I don't know if people maintain this application, but it's pretty solid at this point. I would probably use this for state management, to be honest. If I had to start a new company or start a new job, I'd probably be using Overmind. Again, I don't know how well it works with Next.js, but that's kind of my go-to, or would be my go-to. I have not implemented Google AdSense ever in my life, so I don't know. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching, you all. Wait, do you consider GUI desktop development harder to master than web front? I haven't really done GUI development, right? So I can't answer that question. Everything's hard in its own way, but once you get to know it, like it becomes easy, right? All right, anyway, later all, hope you guys enjoyed this stream. I'm gonna go ahead and head off and join my Discord and ask me questions, and yeah, we'll take it from there. How do I end the stream?